let me ask you something. When was the last time you went somewhere nice? You know, an interesting location to maybe rest, relax, or learn something new? Well, whether the answer to this question is long time or just yesterday, I'm inviting you on a journey through today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson, your guide. First up, the news, and then we'll go over a weekly recap of information coming out of the Office of the Prime Minister. More after this.
Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, December 7. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Renewal says informal settlement surveys have been completed in 8 parishes. Portfolio Minister Pernell Charles Jr. gave the update during a recent sitting of the House of Representatives. The comprehensive study will provide the state with data on land settlement and use practices to inform its decisions on the creation of sustainable, inclusive communities with affordable housing options. A national policy on informal settlements will also be realized from the survey.
The ministry is engaged in a series of stakeholder consultations on the first draft policy, having completed consultations with internal stakeholders and some communities. In short order, consultations will continue with the remaining municipal corporations and other stakeholders, including private landowners and members of the legal fraternity.
Community-based projects of the Bureau of Gender Affairs and 7 local organizations responding to gender-based violence are being boosted by a $21 million donation. Canada Fund for Local Initiatives CFLI presented the donation to Gender Minister Olivia Grange yesterday. It will help victims and survivors of gender-based violence access safe spaces and provide them with entrepreneurship opportunities, skills building, mental health services and counseling.
Like the Government of Canada, the Government of Jamaica, through the Bureau of Gender Affairs in my ministry, remains committed to strengthening civil society as critical stakeholders to Jamaica's development, providing greater protection for women and our girls.
Minister Grange says the 8 project recipients, including the Bureau of Gender Affairs, will implement activities to address social and economic issues resulting from the pandemic for the 2021 to 2022 period. Meanwhile, High Commissioner of Canada to Jamaica, Emina Tudakovic, says it's representative of her country's commitment to help fight gender-based violence in Jamaica.
Today we have come together to share and to build on the important work we've been doing, to understand the evidence and build the partnerships and platforms the sector needs to accelerate action and enhance the collective impact of work.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness has approved the administering of booster doses of COVID-19 vaccines to healthcare workers and persons 60 years and older starting December 13. The move follows Cabinet's approval of the Ministry's completed evaluation and benefit analysis on giving additional doses to key members of the population. A booster dose of the Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccine is being offered 6 months or more after the completion of the initial 2 doses. The single-dose Johnson & Johnson's booster shot can be taken 2 months or more after the initial dose. In a release Monday, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said the additional doses would ensure that the health system was not burdened by increased risk of transmission among the targeted population. Meanwhile, the ministry is reminding the public that an additional dose of the COVID-19 vaccine is recommended for moderately to severely immunocompromised individuals. This will be an additional dose of a COVID-19 vaccine already received and should be administered 8 weeks after the last dose. Jamaicans who have received their first of a 2-dose COVID-19 vaccine are also being encouraged to complete their vaccination series. The Ministry of Local Government is looking at allowing visits to infirmaries by fully vaccinated family members during the Christmas season. Portfolio Minister Desmond McKenzie made the announcement during his ministry's Community Month workday at the Trelawney Infirmary recently. He says government is also considering a vaccine requirement for new entrants to the island's infirmaries once admissions resume.
What we are looking to do whenever we take the decision is that once we start to readmit persons to the infirmaries, one of the conditions that will be laid out is that new cases coming into the infirmaries must be fully vaccinated before they will be admitted to the infirmary. We have to do that to safeguard the welfare of the population in our infirmary.
The minister says visits to the infirmaries will also be limited based on appointments, and persons must have a negative COVID-19 test taken within 72 hours of their visit. And finally, vendors at the Pineapple Craft Market in St. Anne are almost 100% vaccinated and should be getting businesses from both cruise and stopover arrivals in the coming months. President Claire Bruce says 55 of the 60 vendors have been vaccinated.
We try to have our protocols in place. We are vaccinated, we have cleaned up our market, and we are ready for business.
Ms. Bruce was among several other traders who came together on the weekend to clean up the market for the winter tourist season. During the exercise, Executive Director of Jamaica Vacations, Joy Roberts, said tourism stakeholders were in discussion with transport operators and other local entities to see how best they could assist the process of getting business to the craft market.
Because of the offerings they have, because of the energy that they put into ensuring that they're offering the optimal experience, the cruise lines have taken a look. Right? The operators, the tour operators have taken a look. So already I think they have 2 tours. And just yesterday, I spoke to a tour operator who has gotten a new tour. And she now wants to add Pineapple Craft Market. She has spoken to the cruise lines already and will add a stop here.
And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thanks for watching.
It's absolutely critical that we receive the vaccines. You will see hospitalizations and indeed deaths likely come down. And so there is a lot of value to be gained by getting as many vulnerables on board as possible. So tell your mothers, tell your aunts, listen out for yourselves if you're over 60 and take the vax, because the vax is what will help you to guard against the COVID virus and indeed help your relatives, your friends, those who you come in contact with for the same benefit.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness prioritized housing all last week. In addition to giving updates on state-led housing initiatives, Mr. Holness also shared development plans for urban areas. These and much more on Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Vaughn Davis. Stay with us.
For the next 2 to 3 years, right, you will have over 21,000, almost 22,000 housing solutions guaranteed to be on the market.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the National Housing Trust has 12,019 units under construction, with another 9,641 units in the planning and designing stage. The Prime Minister says $195 billion is being spent on these housing initiatives, more than 95% of which target low to middle income earners. He gave the update on Wednesday during a ceremony to hand over 110 two-bedroom duplexes at Twickenham Glades in St. Catherine. The NHT's latest development was built on 12.2 acres of land that was acquired for $37 million. 23 of the new residents are paying 0% interest, while 12 beneficiaries are in the 2% interest rate band, and 38 are paying 4%. 26 of the units are set aside for public sector workers and the disabled. The units start at $13.7 million, and amenities include a multi-purpose playing field, jogging, recreation, and parking spaces. Mr. Holness has called on NHT to ensure that the new development is properly greened and fruited.
Get the grass in, plant a whole lot of trees, and you will find that that will be very, very helpful. You're close to the highway, and the trees can act as a sound barrier and as a dust barrier as well. And of course, same thing with the grass.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness is reiterating government's commitment to the equitable redevelopment of the island's urban areas. He says the state will ensure that there's a diverse pool of accommodations for persons residing in urban spaces.
We don't want to be building communities and it just becomes exclusive. Only rich can afford it. So we also have that duty, and when we are looking at how we are redeveloping our city, we have to make sure that we leave options in there for people to access affordable housing so that Kingston doesn't become an enclave exclusive to the rich and then immediately juxtaposed beside it our inner city community.
Touching on another vexing issue, the Prime Minister has instructed the National Housing Trust to re-evaluate its participation in the middle to high income housing market. The trust has also been directed to halt construction on the second phase of the Ruthven Towers development in New Kingston. The directive follows calls to reconsider the price point of Ruthven Towers, which has units ranging from $27.7 to $37.7 million.
I've asked them to take a second look at it to see whether or not they should proceed based upon, the construction cost and the cost of the land and the public distraction.
At the same time, the Prime Minister pointed out that several factors would have affected the Ruthven Towers pricing, including the fact that the 5-acre property cost $378.5 million due to its location in the heart of Kingston. He asserts that the NHT has a duty to provide benefits to all categories of contributors, not just those in the low and middle income brackets. Mr. Holness revealed that applications had been received for 86 units at Ruthven Towers, and successful applicants would be announced shortly. In other news, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is seeking to assure Jamaicans that there will be no favoritism shown to persons who are vaccinated over those who are unvaccinated. He was responding to public discourse suggesting that persons who are vaccinated against COVID-19 are being given special treatment, while those who are unvaccinated are being discriminated against.
We examine our policies very closely to ensure that there is no undue, unnecessary, unfair, unjust differentiation that could be classified as discrimination. We are a liberal democracy, we are a free country, and we are all in the same boat, vaccinated and unvaccinated.
And on Friday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness expressed sadness at the passing of one of Jamaica's most honored citizens and diplomats, Arnold Foote. Professor Foote passed away at home on Thursday at age 87. Mr. Holness remembered the Order of Jamaica and Order of Distinction member for his work in trade promotion, advertising, marketing, sports, and diplomacy. He extended condolences to Professor Foote's wife and 3 children. And that's it for Jamaica House Weekly. Be sure to join us next time for more of the news stories coming out of the office of the Prime Minister.
Was there anything in Jamaica House Weekly that you'd like to talk about? We'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment on our Facebook and Instagram pages or our YouTube channel. I'll be looking out for it. But until then, we're moving on with a little riddle. All Jamaicans must visit this agency to get a document needed to travel overseas. What is it? Maybe that was too easy and you've already figured it out, right? Well, it's the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, Pica. Learn how the agency is changing so customers wait less and get documents faster. Next.
How we are going with all of that? You're moving?
No. I'm a passport I come for renewing, But you want me to say, you in that place full of crowd and the long line I take you all day. Make sure you walk with some food.
No, man, things improve, man. Them have a drop box where you can use inside. It finishes in no time. Yeah, man, them are done.
The Jamaican passport, the key to seeing new worlds and also a versatile form of identification. Despite that, getting this very important document was not always a hassle-free process. And so, the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency Pica has been on a drive to continuously improve its processes and customer service.
If you're a first-time applicant, you apply for the passport, you have to bring your ID, your birth certificate, and you have to complete the form along with 2 pictures and all the documentation, and you submit that to our office here at 25 Constant Spring or any of our offices located in St. Anne's Bay, Montego Bay, Mandeville, Maypen, and also Port Antonio. In addition to that, we also offer online passport renewal service for adults only. Depending on what service you want, you can get back your passport same day, next day, 3 days, or within 7 days.
Under the Public Sector Modernization Program, Pica became an executive agency in 2007 through the merger of the Immigration, Passport and Citizenship units of the Ministry of National Security. The agency's transformation is being driven by several factors, including visionary leadership, committed and competent staff, and the use of technology.
We are coming from a place where we had handwritten passports, commonly known as the Blue Book. We evolved from that to the machine-readable passport in 2001. We have used technology to transition from using a machine-readable passport to making our system a little more robust by implementing a facial recognition system for our passport services.
Pica also provides services to persons applying to become Jamaican citizens or renounce their citizenship.
On the citizenship side of our operations, we have implemented an appointment system. We are in the process of developing also likewise an online service platform through which our citizenship customers can access our service.
I'm married to a U.S. citizen and now we're applying for citizenship. They have made it seamless with the process thus far. It is very engaging. He feels comfortable, very relaxed. Our owner and chairman of the company has also, along with our director, acquired Jamaican citizenship.
And if you are entering the island, you will encounter agents of Pica as they carry out border protection duties. To expedite the immigration service process, persons entering the country can complete the C5 immigration form online. Pica also uses an Advanced Passenger Information System, APIS, where airlines collect information from passengers at the check-in point, and this allows for pre-screening and reduces wait time.
We installed self-serving kiosks at our 2 international airports to allow for speedier processing, and which have come in quite handy now to improve on contactless service delivery.
Pica recently achieved another transformation milestone, becoming ISO 9001-2015 certified for their passport production and issuance operations.
We have to provide a level of quality throughout our entire operation from end to end. We have seen the benefit in terms of the consistency in how we treat our customers. We have got numerous commendations about the quality of our service.
Focusing on continuous improvement, the agency is keen on finding various ways to meet the needs of customers.
We're really looking forward to automating a lot of our products and services. So persons can go online to apply for citizenship, any of our immigration benefits, be it permanent stay, extension of stay, visa.
We are planning to use technology to implement a customer relationship management system where we will understand better the needs of our customers, understand the market demands, understand the trends, and serve our customers better.
Accessing Jamaica's passport, citizenship, and immigration services is now faster and simpler, thanks to improved operations at Pica, a demonstration of the government's continued efforts to transform the public sector to provide citizens with world-class services.
Here's something you may not know. Jamaica has a nuclear reactor, albeit a very small one. It is used for some big tasks. Get more information on this interesting equipment in our next feature.
Building reactors is expensive. That is one caveat in other countries having them to begin with. Jamaica was fortunate in that we had a predecessor, Professor Gerald Laylaw, who had contacts both within the government as well as in international agencies who funded the construction of this reactor in 1984, when the reactor was commissioned. We've been fortunate to use it for so many good works that Jamaica has benefited from since and will continue to benefit from in the future.
This nuclear reactor that we're discussing today is the Slowpoke 2 Research Reactor, located at the International Center for Environmental and Nuclear Sciences in Kingston. It is the only one of its kind in the English-speaking Caribbean.
Strange, not many people know that. It's not a power reactor, we don't generate electricity. It's a tiny reactor and compared to what you might have seen in the movies, actually. Our reactor is just 20 kilowatts, so think about it like 20 tea kettles in your house. That's the amount of power that it has. So it's definitely not power and definitely not going to cut your light bill right now. But what we use this reactor to do is research.
This is very important for us Jamaicans, as nuclear techniques have been applied to study a range of topics from health to agriculture and even climate change.
How the reactor works, it's a device that basically generates neutrons. These neutrons are generated through a process called fission. Fission is basically when the atoms split. So every time those atoms split, it's generating heat. We have a thing in the reactor called a control rod. So think of it like a flashlight. If I put that flashlight on my hand and it's on, you're not going to see the light. That light in this case represents free neutrons. As I lift that light, in this case the control rod, then I can see more glow. That's more neutrons available. And the more they interact is the more they split, and it's a controlled reaction that occurs in the reactor. When you think about power reactors, that heat that's generated is what's used to propel steam turbines and create energy that we would use as electricity. But in our case, since we're not using it for energy, what we're using it to do is basically irradiate the sample that you give me. So if you come to me as a client and you're curious, what's in my plant or what's in my soil, I basically expose your soil or plant to these free neutrons and it gets irradiated. Once you give me your sample and I expose it to radiation, it becomes radioactive. Since it's radioactive, it's basically going to start decaying over a period of time. When it decays, it has these unique gamma rays, which we can pick up on our detector right here. Those unique gamma rays there can tell me how much of what is in your sample. If you're curious as to how much arsenic is in your plant or how much arsenic is in your soil and chromium, that's the information that I'll be able to provide. The number may or may not mean much to you. How that relates is to regulatory policies that are set by agencies that are not us, for example, NEPA or even the World Health Organization. They have limits that are set for lead in soil or lead in plants or lead in water. What we can do is do our analysis and provide a result so that you have an idea of what you're working with, whether as someone going into agriculture or you're thinking about exporting. So this entire lab is a part of the whole process. When I get a sample and it's prepared, we package them in these polyethylene vials. That's what we use to send to the reactor. If you think about it like when you go to the banks in the States and you put your money in this tube and you shoot it to the teller, in this case the teller is the reactor. We do the same thing here, but they're much tinier vials.
This nuclear reactor and its value to the research field is part of what is helping to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business.
waste management is a critical component of curtailing local transmission of COVID-19. As householders strive to keep their homes and frequently used surfaces clean, domestic garbage collection is now even more important. The National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, has called on citizens to partner with the agency in taking all measures possible to contain the spread of this virus. The recommended actions to support the sanitation crews are securing household garbage by properly bagging, tying, and placing in a container for collection, double bagging garbage containing tissue, gloves, face masks, and diapers, placing storage receptacles at the front of the premises where they can be accessed without hindrance 24 hours per day. Persons with uncollected garbage are also encouraged to contact the agency through the following media. Call toll-free at 888-CLEAN-JA, that's 888-253-2652, or WhatsApp 876-448-3220, or email nswma@nswma.gov.jm. Visit the agency's website www.nswma.gov.jm and reach out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The NSWMA continues to work closely with the Ministries of Local Government and Health to ensure the welfare of employees and the citizens of Jamaica.
That's all we have for today's show. Thank you so much for coming along with me on this journey. If you missed anything or want to watch what you saw again, visit our YouTube channel. At the same time too, visit the JIS Facebook, Instagram and Twitter pages for more information. From all of us here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Walk good.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.